Part 2. My parents made me drop out of college to fund my brother's medical school, but when I became successful, they demanded half my income and called me selfish for refusing. Update 1. 6 months after Tyler's graduation party, my software product really took off. A major company wanted to acquire it. After negotiations, I sold it for an amount that made me financially independent. I was 29 years old and suddenly had more money than I had ever imagined. I kept the sale quiet, telling only my close friends. I knew if my parents found out, they would expect a significant portion. I was right to be cautious because about a week later, my mother called with an unusual request. She wanted to meet for lunch to discuss something important. At lunch, both my parents were unusually friendly. They asked about my work and life, showing more interest than they had in years. Then they got to the real reason for the meeting. They had heard through a family friend that I had sold something and come into money. They wanted to know how much and how I planned to share it with the family. I was stunned by their audacity. I asked what they meant by sharing. My mother explained that since Tyler had graduated and could now support himself, they wanted to retire early. They expected me to help them financially since Tyler had his residency salary, which wasn't enough to support them and himself. My father added that they had sacrificed their own retirement savings to put Tyler through medical school. They said it was my turn to take care of them. They suggested I give them a lump sum for retirement and then provide a monthly allowance. They had even calculated an amount, $50,000 upfront and $3,000 monthly. I sat there listening to them outline their expectations, feeling the anger build inside me. They had spent 6 years taking my money for Tyler, never once thanking me or acknowledging my sacrifice. Now they expected me to fund their retirement too. They saw me as an endless bank account with no dreams or needs of my own. I told them no. I said I had given enough to this family. My mother's friendly demeanor vanished instantly. She called me selfish and ungrateful. My father said after everything they did raising me, this was how I repaid them. They claimed that Tyler's medical school debt was partly my fault for not contributing more during his last 2 years. I left that lunch feeling both guilty and angry. They had a way of making me feel like I was always the problem, always the one not doing enough. But I stood firm in my decision. I had spent 6 years sacrificing my education, my career, and my independence for Tyler. I wasn't going to spend the rest of my life funding everyone else's dreams. My parents started a campaign to turn the family against me. They told relatives I had become greedy and forgotten my family. They painted themselves as poor struggling parents who had sacrificed everything for their children, only to be abandoned. They never mentioned the 6 years I gave up or the money I contributed to Tyler's education. Tyler called me for the first time in months. He said our parents were really struggling and maybe I should help them out. I asked if he planned to help them with his doctor's salary. He said his residency pay was low and he had student loans to pay off. I reminded him that I had paid for a significant portion of his education. He said that was different because I was family helping family, and now it was my turn to help our parents. The disconnect was stunning. In his mind, my sacrifice had been my obligation as a sister, but his success was entirely his own and came with no obligations to anyone else. I told him if he wanted to help our parents, he could do it himself. He called me selfish and hung up. The family gossip reached my extended family. Some relatives reached out to tell me I should forgive and help my parents. Others, who knew the full story, supported my decision. My aunt,